what the fuck? Straight up, what the fuck? Like that's what you got to say at the end of this. Look, I'm just going to get it right out of the way. This is going to be my thoughts on the recent Oscars that just aired, just got done with it. I originally was doing this video. It was going fine. I was doing a live stream, and then YouTube took it down because they thought that it was like deceiving or whatever. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it got taken down. And as a result, I am going to be doing a thoughts video instead, which is fine. But my God, this was the most wild fucking thing I think I've ever seen in a long time when it comes to award shows. And I can barely comprehend what we even just watched. Like, to be honest with you, this was like a fever dream. This entire show was like a fever dream to me. Every single thing that happened, aside from like the wins were pretty obvious. Nothing too crazy happened there. It was like a fever dream, especially in terms of presentation. And unfortunately, because the fact that video did get delayed, I'm going to have to reiterate a bunch of things that I already said in that live stream. But I'll just say, leading up to this, I was really not that excited for the Oscars this year, mainly because of the fact that I just felt like, in general, there was a general lack of disrespect going on within the Oscars as a whole. The whole point of the show is to, like celebrate the movies and things like that, and to, honor film and their decision to negate like 8 categories and not show them on the, not present them live and things like that. It just seemed really tone deaf to me, and especially seemed hypocritical considering that they were propping this up as like movie lovers unites. But instead they have like a bunch of they have a bunch of like athletes presenting awards, and they have all these like ridiculous musical acts and all these like incessant tributes, and it just felt like the focus was completely wrong. And so going into this, beyond the fact of like the awards itself, which I always do get excited for because these are movies that I generally really did like quite a bit, I just didn't have a lot of excitement when it came to the Oscars this year. And I'm sorry to say that it very much was what I expected. This was such a disastrous show. I mean, right off the bat, getting into what I was talking about, they actually didn't even stay consistent with that. It seems like there was a lot of scrutiny, so they randomly like decided to reverse the decision. But the problem is, they already had set in stone what they were going to do. So they did this pre-show. They had awards come out in the beginning before the show happened. So we already knew like what won best cinematography, what won best editing. We already knew about all of that stuff. Like none of that was surprising to us or anything like that, because we already knew what ended up happening when it came to that. The problem is like, so we already knew what ended up happening and things like that. The problem is, though, they, for some reason, decided to reverse the decision and still present some of them live. And they weren't live. They were clearly pre-recorded. But the way that they went about it, I think, was honestly even worse than what they could have done. Because instead of just being like, all right, we'll just take the loss. We tried something out. It didn't work. We'll do better next time. They tried to do both. They tried to do what they said they were going to do and then immediately tried to backtrack. And it did not fucking work at all, especially because they only focused on some of the awards. Like best cinematography was presented fully. Like best cinematography was presented fully. Best score was presented fully. But things like best production design had like a quick little thing to it. Best makeup and hairstyling had a quick little thing to it. And it just seems so unwise to go about the show presenting it the way that they did, because it just felt like there just wasn't a focus on anything. They didn't seem to care about anything that was going on here. They didn't seem to have any real focus whatsoever. It was just so narrow-minded in terms of their decisions, in terms of what they wanted to do, in terms of the way they presented the show. The whole thing just made no sense to me. So again, that whole thing was just a complete disaster, all the way down to the awards that they did present. There was a point where, and I was very happy with a lot of the awards. You want to hear my thoughts? Like, go on Twitter. I'm not really going to get into it that much. And I wish I'd say more, but like, again, my live stream got taken down. So I'm not really going to spend too much time on it, but I'm very happy about a lot of the awards here that end up winning. The only best picture film that like I just didn't want to win was Belfast, even though I talked about the fact that I liked that movie at first. The more I think about it, the more I just really am not a big fan of it at all. And when it came to, when it came to the wins, like that's really all that I cared about at the end of the day. So there weren't really too many wins that I was like upset about or anything. I was very happy to see Coda get a lot of nominations because I really do like that movie quite a bit. I think it's a very feel-good movie, but I also think that it's a much smaller movie than what you normally see, winning awards. It's a very small indie film. It was a big hit like right out of Sundance, and just the marketing campaign has been amazing for that film. And what a great win for Apple here. I think Apple, this really puts them in a very interesting position because I think now they're going to be looked at as one of the new sort of like titans when it comes to streaming. And I think that's going to be a big win for them for sure, with Coda ultimately winning Best Picture, which I'm satisfied with overall. I think that that's a pretty good win. Jessica Chastain winning Best Actress, I'm happy with that. I think she gave a really good performance in Eyes of Tammy Faye. Ariana DeBose was obvious, but I'm very happy that she won, and history was made. The first performance that the first Best Actress that won playing the same performance that another Best Actress won. Like, I think that's really cool in the same category. Never happened before. Such an interesting kind of stats, and it's not something I think we'll ever really see again. So I'm just really happy that like that was something that was able to happen, and DeBose just crushed it in that movie. So I'm very happy that she won the award there. Troy Kotzer, I'm very happy won as well. His speech was just so great to watch, and I love what he ended up doing with that. And then I was very happy to see the director, obviously Drive My Car winning Best International Film. That was not shocking or anything like that. I will say I was really annoyed that Ruxa Hamaguchi nearly got cut off on stage when everyone else they let speak. It was just a little weird, I gotta say. It felt a little just a little hypocritical with the Movie Lovers Unite thing. There's a lot of things that feel hypocritical, but we'll get into that. So again, I'm not really going to say much about like the awards themselves because I really enjoyed what we ended up getting. And I don't really have too many complaints in terms of the winners or anything. There were a few upsets here and there, but all the ones that like, there were a few upsets where like the best animated short film and things like that. Robin didn't win. Some other film won, which I was a little bit surprised about. But like other than that, it was pretty predictable in terms of what was going to win. Jane Campion, Will Smith, all the usual stuff. But let's talk about the presentation as a whole, because that's more of what I want to focus on here, because my God, what a disaster. So this entire award show, it felt like to me, their entire goal was, let's try to get back our audience, because their ratings have been declining for a while now. People have just not been watching Oscars. There are people I've talked to and they didn't even know that the Oscars was on this year. And so their whole goal going into this was, let's try to get that audience back. What can we do to make this a lot more public domain? But in doing so, they took away everything that makes the Oscars great. And instead, what we got was something that just didn't feel like the Oscars. It felt more in comparison with like the Teen Choice Awards or like the MTV Movie Awards. Hell, the Grammys even. Like, it did not feel like the Oscars. Nothing about anything in terms of presentation here felt like the Oscars. Just from the beginning alone, to have it start off with one of the best original song performances was very strange. I mean, Beyonce really killed it. Like, it was an amazing performance. I loved the colors, all of like I love the green colors and all of that. It was really nicely color coordinated. I thought that was really cool. I like the production design, but as a whole, like, it was just another one of those things where I was just kind of like, why are we starting out with this? And then the decision to bring out these three hosts who, let me just say, are the most random assemblance of hosts that you could have gotten. Like, Regina Hall and Wanda Sykes, I think legitimately worked well together. Like, I will say, I think they had a pretty good back and forth. They didn't have a ton of interaction together, but when they did, I definitely thought they had a good dynamic to them. And Regina Hall, especially, was really good. Like, she had a lot of presence to her. I think that she delivered a lot, and a lot of the comedy did not work for me, but her delivery is really what elevated. And same when it goes to Wanda Sykes. Amy Schumer, on the other hand, just felt kind of out of place. Like, I don't really know why she was here. I feel like a lot of people aren't really that big on Amy Schumer already. So like, and she's such like a controversial comedian. Like, her entire comedy is like based on like raunchiness and things like that. So just the decision to have her as like one of the three hosts was just a little bit strange to me. And as expected, I just don't think they worked all that well together. A lot of their jokes just really fell flat. And the way they decided to divide it up, because I heard them say what they were going to do originally was like have one person host the first hour of the show, have another person host the second hour, have another person host the third hour. That's not really what they did. What they did instead was they did a monologue, and then they immediately cut to Amy to do this like really weird like introduction of all the hosts, which felt like something we get like the Kids' Choice Awards, where it's like, welcome to the Kids' Choice Awards, starring this presenter, which was just very strange overall. A lot of presenters that should not have been there, like Shawn Mendes, Tony Hawk, what the fuck? Like, why them? Why was Rachel Zegler, who is nominated, who is a actress that is in a film that is nominated for Best Picture, why was she almost rejected from the Oscars? Like, I just didn't understand that at all. Things like that were just so baffling to me overall. But the hosts themselves, again, the way they decided to go about it, doing this whole like montage of sorts, and then immediately cutting to Amy Schumer giving another monologue and making it seem like she didn't really have much to say. All of her jokes were just very easy jokes. There were a lot of jokes that I honestly found to be very tasteless, like them talking about The Last Duel and how nobody saw it, and them talking about how Power of the Dog was too long. Like, there's a way to make fun of these movies, but do it with a sense of respect. And I felt like that's what was missing for me when it came to the way they discussed a lot of things. It just felt like there wasn't a lot of respect there. It felt very much like they were just making fun of a bunch of these films, and that's something I just didn't really like that much overall. I think they could have done a much better job with that. Yeah, I agree, Terrell. Coda, great Best Picture winner. Very heartfelt film. Definitely very groundbreaking, especially for like the deaf community and Codas as well. Like, very important all around. And I think it's a film that really is going to change a lot for the industry in terms of Best Picture winners, because again, it's much smaller than what we normally get. So no complaints there. Very happy that won Best Picture. Crazy Oscar race all around. Like, we started off, Belfast was going to be the front runner for a while, and then that hype really died down once people saw it and were like, this is really the film that's going to win Best Picture. So that didn't happen. Then Licorice Pizza, people were saying, was going to be the front runner. And then, all the controversy on Twitter happened and things like that. And that didn't end up happening. Then Power of the Dog had a real surge because of the fact that like it was winning, Golden Globes and things like that. And people got, really hyped thinking that could potentially win. And then it didn't. And then Coda swoops in right at the last second, winning PGA and winning Best Picture. Just such an interesting race. I don't think we're really going to see something like this again. I will say, whenever the Oscars happen again, please do this in February. Like, there's such a big gap in between the Golden Globes and the Oscars, and I don't think that should happen. Like, have this in February, have this happen earlier, because at this point, like, people just kind of want the Oscar race to end. And I feel like if we were to have it happen a little sooner, I don't think people would have that same sort of energy. But again, getting back to the hosts here, on their own, I didn't think they were that bad. I thought, like I said, Regina Hall had some really fun moments. Wanda Sykes, I loved when she was like going around like the Oscars lot and like mistaking items for like other actors, when she thought like Shape of Water was Jason Momoa. Like, stuff like that was really funny. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Amy Schumer just didn't seem like she knew what to do. There were many moments where she wasn't even there, and it very much felt like she was tacked on at the last second. Then there were moments where where Amy Schumer was there and you didn't see Wanda Sykes for a while. Then Wanda Sykes was there. You didn't see Regina Hall for a while. So it's just very unbalanced. And I think this would have been a lot better if you just picked one of them. Like, it felt like they were generally conflicted between these three hosts. So they got all of them at the same time. And it just did not really work. And like I said, some moments did work. But when it didn't work, you had Amy Schumer dressed as Spider-Man. And something that I was just deeply questioning throughout. I mean, for me, this was easily one of the worst hosts that I think we've ever had at the Oscars. I think just in general, it just did not work at all. And whenever they try to get like multiple hosts, it just never really works out well. And I think that was the real mistake here. Like, I think if they had one host, this would have been a lot better, would have ran a lot smoother. This is just not one I think people are going to remember in terms of hosts. And it's a shame because, again, I think all these women are talented in their own right, but together it didn't really work. But honestly, that is my least of it. That is my least of issues when it comes to this show. When it comes to, okay, you know, I'm just going to get into it because everyone's talking about it. Let's talk about this Will Smith, Chris Rock thing because it's a very slippery slope, I think. It's a very difficult conversation to have. Chris Rock, you know, he is about to present an award. I forgot what it was at this point, but he's presenting this award and he's talking about, he's just doing what he usually does, cracking jokes and things like that. Makes a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith that honestly was pretty tasteless, I would say. I don't think that it was a very, it wasn't a very respectful joke, I would say. I think that it was honestly not pretty insensitive to what she is going through. And Will Smith at first just kind of laughs it off, but eventually he gets in Chris Rock's face and he ends up punching him in the face. And yeah, when this happened, I was baffled. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I thought at first this was like something that was scripted, but then the way that the way that Chris Rock was acting at the end, I really don't think this was scripted at all. My honest opinion is that I think both of them were honestly in the wrong. I think that we need to not put the blame solely on Chris Rock, and we need to not put the blame solely on Will Smith. Chris Rock, I think, definitely should have thought twice before making this joke. Absolutely. I think that the joke itself, like I said, was not very sensitive to what Jada Pinkett Smith is going through. Now, regardless if he knew that she had this medical condition or not, where she is losing her hair, it doesn't really matter because he knows that this is a sensitive subject. He knows how she's probably going to react. So I just think he should have thought twice before making that joke. But then obviously, Will Smith punching him in the face either. That's definitely not the way to react on public television. But I think Will Smith, he just really wanted to stand up for his wife. He talked a lot about in his speech how, protecting people can make you do crazy things. And I think he was just going through a lot. And I think that it really got to him and he felt like he needed to intervene. And yeah, I think that, again, there's a lot of overreactions going on here and it's a difficult discussion to have. But sincerely, I think both of them were in the wrong. I think both of them made some decisions that they shouldn't have. It sucks that it happened, but I think they're going to be able to get over it. Like, I don't see either of these actors like being like blacklisted from Hollywood or something like that. Like, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen just from something this minute. Like, yes, it happened on public television. People are probably going to talk about it for years because it's at the Oscars. But in general, like, I don't think it's something to harp on all that much. Mainly just, again, because the fact that I think both of them just made some very unwise decisions that they should have thought twice about. So that's really all I'm going to say on the matter. I don't really want to discuss it too much because I don't want to take away from the rest of the show. That's the thing. Once that happened, it kind of overshadowed everything else that happened on the broadcast. So it's like, and that's why I don't really want to talk about it for that long because I want to focus on the other things that just did not work for me at all here. With that being said, let's also talk about the musical performances here. Some of them were really good. I thought No Time to Die, Billie Eilish just really killed it, did a really good job when it came to that performance. Like I said, Beyonce's was easily the highlight of the entire telecast. They started off big, I think, and really just started off with such a bang. I love the production design. I love what she did with the song. Easily the best, and really just showing how Beyonce is one of the best living performers out there. We already knew that, but like this was just a really great reminder of that overall. So I really love what she ended up doing here. Reba McEntire's song honestly made me fall asleep. I've forgotten about 4 Good Days, and I feel like I feel like the only thing that was relevant when it came to that song is people admitting on Twitter, such as me, that they've seen that movie. Like I think that was really the only relevant thing that came out of that. So not really going to say much about that. The two that really annoyed me were both of the Encanto performances. One, I know a lot of people have said that We Don't Talk About Bruno should have been nominated. And yeah, I mean, if they had known the impact that that song was going to have, the hit that it was going to be, the fact that it's still on like Billboard charts and things like that, yes, they definitely would have nominated it. But I think they generally underestimated just how big of a hit that song was going to be. Thus why they did Dos Ogaritos, which I'm not complaining about because that song always makes me cry. Like that song always gets me emotionally. Both times I've seen that movie, I've cried at that scene. So I'm not complaining at all that Dos Ogaritos got nominated. My issue is more with the performance itself. It was a very lovely performance in terms of who was singing and things like that. But you had these dancers that were in the way. I felt like I was watching like a Dancing with the Stars performance. And it was so distracting from what was going on. And I don't think they did a very good job with that. But the idea to include We Don't Talk About Bruno anyway feels like such a last minute decision, as do a lot of things in this broadcast. Really feels like something that they fit in at the last second. They knew that people wanted to see a performance, and you know what they did? Stripped everything away that made people love that song. They started off and it was the We Don't Talk About Bruno that we really do love. And then Megan Thee Stallion comes in and starts singing this verse. And look, I like Megan Thee Stallion quite a bit, as does a lot of people. Like I think that she is a damn good performer, very good rapper, probably one of the best rappers out there right now. But her coming out and doing this whole like new verse about Hollywood and the Oscars and things like that was just really disappointing because they made it seem like they were going to do this full performance of We Don't Talk About Bruno. And instead we get this disastrous, very cringy performance where they tried to change some of the lyrics around to fit to the Oscars. It did not work at all. I really don't know what they were thinking here, but it was just an absolute disaster on all fronts. And I honestly think that they should have just opened with this. Like something that I really loved that I don't see a lot of people talk about, Janelle Monáe's performance in the 2019 Oscars when she opened it up, I actually thought was like a really strong sort of opening and a really good way to like start things off. I've always been a fan of like starting things off with a musical number, and they did start things off with a musical number, but I kind of think they should have started off with We Don't Talk About Bruno because with the way they did this, it just felt incredibly random and just did not fit into the show very much at all. Just kind of felt like something they added in at the last second, as did a lot of things that they ended up doing here. So yeah, those two musical performances didn't work well for me. And my God, the In Memoriam is easily the worst I have ever seen when it comes to the Oscars. I mean, not just in terms of how disrespectful it was, the idea to have these actors come out and speak about certain dead actors or dead directors and the impact they had on them is a interesting idea. Like that's something that could be very heartwarming if it's not in an in memoriam when we're trying to highlight a bunch of different people, because when you only focus on like Ivan Reitmans and you focus on the Betty Whites and you focus on the Sidney Poitiers, like it feels like they are more important than everyone else in this montage. And that is completely antithetical to the point of an in memoriam in the first place. The entire purpose of an in memoriam is that we are trying to shed light on those who are no longer with us. Like that's it. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. And it seemed like they really got away from that this year. They brought in this choir who was doing at points these upbeat songs. We focused more on the choir itself than we did on the in memoriam. I hated every second of it. If this is the direction the Oscars are going in, I'm just not gonna look forward to the in memoriam. It's always sad to watch, but these days it's like embarrassing with how it's gone. Like this was honestly worse than last year's. Last year's had the problem where it was too fast and we kind of rushed through everything. This had the opposite problem where we didn't focus enough on the names. We saw everyone we saw all these like half-hearted sort of speeches about the impact that these actors had on them, and again, whether that be true or not, it just really felt like they got away from the general purpose of it, so that didn't really work for me very much at all. So those are like the musical performances. That's really all I have to say about that. The only other thing I really do want to bring up, because it was such a disaster, all of the segments that they did throughout the show, whether it be honoring some movie that came out years ago. Like, my friend tweeted to me about this. I love Pulp Fiction as much as anyone else, but a Pulp Fiction reunion 28 years is really fucking random. It really just felt like they wanted to do everything they can to hook people back into the Oscars. So they tried to get all of these like random reunions, and it did not work at all. Like Uma Thurman and John Travolta doing the dance and being in character before they present the award for like best director or whatever really did not hit in the way I think they wanted it to. Whether it was the random White Men Can't Jump reunion, a movie that I haven't even seen, to be honest with you. I need to watch it, but like, I just don't think that was something that anyone was really clamoring for all that much. Woody Harrelson being stoned off his ass throughout most of it, I don't think really worked at all. And then both the James Bond and Godfather tributes did not really work for me because, one, I felt the James Bond one just felt way too brief. They did a quick little montage, and I think they should have transitioned into No Time to Die. That's what I thought they were going to do, at least, and then show like all the different, you could put like Bond stuff behind her or something like that to like really make it impactful, but no, they didn't do that. And again, it just felt like something they threw in at the last second to overcompensate for the fact they are not presenting all 23 categories. It just, all of this felt like overcompensation to me. They're like, all right, we hear you, so what we're going to do is we're going to throw in a bunch of bullshit. And they did the same thing with The Godfather. I like that they brought out Francis Ford Coppola and Francis Ford Coppola, Pacino, and De Niro. I did not like the song that they played during it. I felt like it really kind of took away from the legacy of that film. In general, I didn't really like what they ended up doing there at all. I thought most of the presenters were just really bad all around. The worst one easily was what they did with like Shaun White and Tony Hawk and all of them, who clearly had nothing to contribute in terms of the movies, just talk about like the sports they were in. They're doing all these weird like sports analogies. I wasn't into that at all with what they were doing. And then the last thing I will talk about before I do wrap things up here, because I don't want this to go too long, the idea to have these like popular award categories is really fucking stupid. And the main reason for that is for two things. One, the audience should just not get a say. Like, this is not the audience award show. We have an audience award show. It's called the People's Choice Awards. It happens every single year, and it's been a big success. Like, if you want an audience award show, we already have it. It's called the People's Choice Awards. This is supposed to be from different branches who are voters that have been, selected into these positions, and they're the ones that are responsible for voting. We should not get a say in any of that. Two, it really kind of undermines, like, I think a lot of the actual movies that we're honoring, because it feels like, oh, well, these movies, we know a lot of people didn't see them, so we're going to do a best popular film. Like, they tried to do that in 2018. There was a lot of scrutiny behind it. This time they got away with it. And you know what happened? We had Zack Snyder winning both times. And look, I love Army of the Dead. The scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League that was number one is probably the best scene in that entire movie, to be honest with you. But the fact that that was number one, I just think is kind of funny. And it really just shows how pointless both of these categories were. Like, what did these contribute at the end of the day? What was the point of this? What were you really trying to get out of this? It just didn't really work for me at all. There were a lot of just random things happening here that I don't think they did a very good job with. So again, I just feel like this is an Oscars that just had no idea who it was really for. There were so many random moments that were happening that I was honestly just in utter disbelief about when they ended up the way they ended up playing out, the way everything ended up happening. I couldn't believe some of what was going on. I think in terms of the awards themselves, I don't really have too many complaints. But the way it was so lazily put together, you had hosts that on their own were okay, but like once they got together, just did not work in the way that I really wanted them to. You had a show that seemed like it was trying to overcompensate way too much to like the youth and things like that. It just feels like the Oscars needs to remember what made them great in the first place. A perfect example is the 2020 Oscars. That was actually a really good award show. And the reason is because we didn't have any bullshit. Like, we didn't have a host. We didn't have all these like cringy jokes going on. It was very much focused on let's give out the awards. Let's respect these movies as much as we can. We can make a couple tributes here and there, but we're not going to try to get too far away from the show. This year, I feel like it was all about spectacle. Like, it was all about spectacle. It was all about being flashy. It was all about doing all these crazy things. When really, if they had just made a couple different decisions, I think this could have actually been an okay show. But because of the fact that they made some really miscalculated decisions, whether it be the presenters that they end up getting, whether it be the choice of hosts, whether it be completely omitting categories and then deciding to randomly implement them back in and do it in a very lazy manner to where some of them are presented in their entirety and some of them are like these quick little snippets, it just felt so haphazard. It felt so lazily put together, and it honestly is probably the worst Oscars that I've seen, but it also is the most unforgettable Oscars I've ever seen. Like, there are things that happen here that we're truly never going to forget about, and I don't mean this in a good way. That's the thing. Like, the things we'll remember, Will Smith and Chris Rock, that's something that people are going to remember. Coda winning Best Picture, I think people are going to remember, but I think the things that were completely outrageous, like Amy Schumer as Spider-Man, whether it be the tribute to like James Bond and all this stuff, like the in memoriam of this year, these are going to be remembered as low points of the Oscars. And I really hope this is just a way for them to take some criticism, figure out what didn't work, and hopefully improve upon it next year. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I certainly hope they're going to, because if this is the direction the Oscars are going to be in, I don't know if I want to watch anymore, because this was honestly kind of painful to watch. It was 3 hours. They kept talking about how much they wanted to end on time. They want to condense the show, and they put in all this filler shit. It just looks very performative. It looks very hypocritical, and it just left a really bad taste in my mouth overall. So those are really my thoughts on the Oscars. Again, there are some things to be excited about. I'm happy Coda won Best Picture. I'm happy with a lot of the speeches and things like that. But as a whole, this was just a really stupid award show for me. That being said, I am looking forward to finally being done with this award season. I do have my best list that I need to put out. I do have my final movie review of 2021 that I need to put out, as well as my catch-up review. I know those videos are highly delayed, but trust me when I say they will be up sooner than later. I have them all filmed. I just need to edit them and hopefully get them to you as soon as possible. Other than that, guys, for this video, hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought of this year's Oscars. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.